Happy Devil's Wednesday. This is the State of Fan Address presented by pucksandpitchforks.com. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with the editor-chief himself, Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, Twitch, on the Let's Go Devils Network. Talking NHL overtime. I think Nick's kind of over it, whatever that means. What does it mean? Well, you're going to have to stick around for the next hour or less talking about, well, I guess the shootout last night, which, you know, the Devils don't really get into the shootouts anymore. But there's a lot of things that Nick has been writing on pucksandpitchforks.com about these various issues. So, Nick, before we begin, I want the audience to know you will be making an appearance, aren't you, this weekend?
Yeah. We'll be there Sunday. We're going to Devils versus Senators at the Rock. We're excited. The little bugger's going to his first game. We're excited for that.
Wow.
Yeah. We will make an appearance at the good old AW before the game. So that'll be a nooner spot at AW, American Whiskey, right on such and such a boulevard, yada yada row. 51 Edison Place. Yeah, so you know the logistics. Just edit it in post. We're excited. It's fun. Like, listen, I do get a press pass at the times that I need it, but we're going as fans this time. You know, outside our podcast obligations, but going as fans and just kind of taking it in. We're actually sitting in the upper, in the 200s, just to kind of get a different look. You know, trying to understand the world from up there. I do like watching it from up there as well. It's just a different view and an interesting perspective, and you kind of get to see the whole ice.
So basically, you got skybox seats. That's what I call them. Skybox.
Oh yeah, sure. It sounds fancier than what they actually are. I call them cheap seats, but
skybox, and then there's the rich people section down below. You know where they got the prime rib going on.
Oh, hey, listen, prime. Maybe I'll look for some of those last minute tickets and try to get some of that prime rib. You know, you get that $50 ticket.
Hey, you know what? You know what we could do, Nick? I could try to get one of those club seats and start smuggling some of that prime rib out to your folks.
Listen, the babe would be very excited about some prime rib. He's got a fancy taste palate, so taste palate's not a thing, but a fancy palate. So, you know, if we and I have, you know, we have a lot going on, so I'm all for the situation at hand. But yeah, so yeah, if you're coming out to American Whiskey, I'm more than happy to say hello. More than happy to you know, just shoot the stuff with everybody. Come say, you know. He won't be on the podcast. He doesn't go. He's not camera ready yet. But you know, definitely come say hi. We're bringing a baby into a bar and we're not getting arrested. So I think that's a win right there.
Yeah, and everybody's right now talking about the topic we're just about to talk about, the overtime shootout. I know Supernova doesn't like overtime. I see Steve Engel chiming in. Jay Snow. Saying some stuff about the offense, but all right, talk to me.
Yeah, I mean,
talk to me, Nick. What you got?
Right, so, there's a couple of different directions I could go with this, and first and foremost, I'm trying to find the exact. I have it written down. I'm just trying to find the. Okay, so since 2018. The Devils are 5-17 in the shootout. The last time that they have a winning record in the shootout was 2017-18, that magical season. And do you know this is the most bizarre part of that? Do you know why the Devils have a winning record that season? it was because of all people, Corey Schneider had an 83% save percentage in the shootout that season. And Keith Kincaid was good too. I think he had like a 68%. So like both of them were just fantastic. And they didn't just win it on the backs of Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall was decent. He had multiple goals, but Brian Boyle had multiple goals. Do you know who had the most goals? I think I'm trying to remember this, but do you know who had the most goals in the shootout that year for the Devils?
Who's that?
Drew Stafford.
Wow.
So it's interesting. Yeah, I know. They've just had these guys that have just been weirdly good at the shootout. Do you know who else was really good at the shootout but terrible on the ice? Was Nikita Gusev. If you go on the greatest, and there's like a certain threshold, I think you have to have at least 10 attempts. But Gusev has the greatest shootout percentage of anyone who's played for the Devils in history. So, and obviously, that's just since 2005, 2006. But I mean, better than Ilya Kovalchuk, better than Zach Parise, better than all these other guys, better than Jacob Josephson, Nikita Gusev, and that includes his time with the Panthers, of course. But he spent more time with the Devils, so you expect that to have the Yeomans, carrying the day for that. The shootout has not been good to the Devils since before Jack Hughes was here. Jack Hughes is 3 for 17 in the shootout in his career. He's had 17 attempts, and he scored 3 times. That's atrocious first and foremost for a guy that skilled, and it's clearly I think we're learning there are points, and you kind of saw this last year when Jack Hughes had a chance to tie the game with that penalty shot against the Ducks. Remember when I think it was Frank Vacciano pushed the net off the moorings and they gave the Devils a penalty shot? Mm-hmm. I think you're starting to, and you see this in overtime this year. Hughes can overthink things, and he makes mistakes. And what bigger point is there to overthink than the shootout or a penalty shot? You're all alone with your thoughts. And you're trying to outduel a goalie, and I'm sure you're thinking of 4 different moves based on how they move. But when you're thinking of 4 different things at once, you don't really have a clear thought in your head. I think you eventually go back to Hughes, but I think you got to take him off for the Devils, like you said, they don't go to the shootout a lot. This is their first one all season, and they're more than halfway through the year. I'm trying to remember. I think they only went to 2 last year. They lost both of them. Yeah, it was 2 because one was Akira Schmid, and the other one was Jake Allen. So Vitek Vanacek didn't even play in a shootout last year. But the Devils didn't score a goal in the shootout last year in those 2, and they haven't scored. Actually, Paul Cotter broke that streak this year. So but Timo Meier had 2 chances last year. Jesper Bratt has been also just as awful as Hughes, but Hughes has had way more attempts. Jesper Bratt 1 year went 0 for 5. He had 5 attempts in the shootout, missed every single one. So it's just something that's not clicking with our star players, with the Devils star players in this parlor game. And I don't want the shootout to exist. I want it to go away. But as long as it does exist, you got to at least do better at it. You're losing points.
I have a take about Jack Hughes in overtime. Now,
you have a take? I never heard this.
No, yeah,
this sorcery.
I always get mad at Jack Hughes. And sometimes I call him Mr. Turnover. I know sometimes I get some flack on Twitter from a certain someone about
he almost lost the game yesterday with a bad turnover.
At the same time, is it strategy where is it Jack Hughes? But when he takes those risks, you've already gained the point. What really do you have to lose? Now you're trying to gain that extra point. Do you really lose a point by taking those risks?
I mean, but his risks aren't calculated.
Oh, I know that, but I'm just saying, if you think about it. Like, did he really blow the game?
I mean, here's the thing: he made a bad pass, and it led to the game-winning goal against Tampa.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
about. That pass
about.
is for Jesper Bratt, but that's just pure luck. And the Devils haven't had a lot of luck this year. Like, truly, like nobody wants to hear that a team is struggling because of bad luck. But when you look at all the possession numbers, the shot suppression numbers, the Devils have had just general bad luck. But that happens sometimes. You got to overcome that. As far as the turnovers are concerned, it's just interesting that you don't see it as much at 5-on-5. You see it some, but not like he's not trying to make these passes when there's 10 guys on the ice. And sometimes they're open, right? Sometimes he could, but he's being a little bit safer with the puck, and I don't know. The turnover last night where he passed it right to the guy from behind the net was atrocious. I don't even know what he was trying to do.
Well,
he was trying to help Markstrom's save percentage, get that up a little bit, help his Vezina case.
Yeah. Well, he does. Again, here's the situation. If you're Sheldon Keefe, how do you hold Jack Hughes accountable? Jack Hughes is liked within the organization. Do you bench him? I mean, a lot of these conventional. I'm going with conventional wisdom here. Like, a lot of these plays that Jack Hughes does are high risk, high reward. But like you said, they're not calculated, right? At the same time, you do want your star players to take risks, but I think what separates the great players from the elite players is when to take these risks. And I also think with Jack Hughes, with his risk-taking, I think Jack Hughes is a much better player when he has a shoot-first mentality versus looking for his teammates, because, honestly, I think Jack Hughes' hockey IQ is through the roof. His vision is through the roof, his hockey vision. But it's also a double-edged sword where he's that bright and talented, and he has probably 8 options in his head, and that's where I think, Nick, you hit it on the head with it, is I think he's got too many things going on in his head, and then he winds up making a mistake rather than simplifying his game and have that shoot-first mentality.
I made the point. I don't think I did it on the podcast, but I was talking to some people. I think during that losing streak, I think someone challenged Hughes. Like, you're the star player, whether it's Keefe or Fitzgerald or McKinnon or Dugan or Brodeur or somebody. Maybe it was even Nico Hischier, but that doesn't really sound like him. But said, you're the star player. You're the guy who's in charge of getting us out of this. Because he's playing with more of an edge, but not in a way that's great. He's playing where almost a desperation style of hockey. And that's not where this team is. Even when they are having their losing streak. This is not a team that needs desperation, right? They're pretty solidly in their playoff spot. The bottom of the Eastern Conference, or even like the bottom of the playoffs, is just so far away. What isn't Columbus like more than 10 points behind the Devils? Even with their winning streak? I think they are. But you don't need that. Like, he's just been playing since they came back home. Or maybe it was since the Seattle game. You're just seeing this desperation from him where he's trying to make passes that aren't there, where he's trying to force the puck in places that doesn't need to be, where he's always going for the finality play. Like, oh, if I hit this pass, like, it's going to lead to a goal, which is great when it works. But this is where it comes down to, like, it is a results business. and your passes aren't hitting. And it's because they're high-risk passes, right? There's like a 8% chance or a 15% chance or a 25% chance that you're going to hit that, which means there's a 75% chance or more that you're not. He has to be a little bit more calculated because I've seen him where he's, and we've criticized them for this in the past, but I've seen some evidence where he's either holding on to the puck in a place where a pass would just be such a better outlet or a much easier outlet, or he's passing to the higher danger, higher reward place when, you know, you can just pass it to Hamilton or to Luke Hughes or something, and they're, you know, they can reset the play when it didn't come to fruition in the way that you wanted. I think that there's just a desperation to his game that I don't think is necessary. And we saw it in the overtime against New York. Like, that was dreadful. Like, that was the worst I've ever seen Jack Hughes play since that rookie season. And I'm trying to remember if that's hyperbole. He's had bad games. But I'm talking about, like a swath. And just the worst I've seen him play since he's hit, like, superstar mode. But I can't remember. Like, there were some times in that rookie season where he just looked like lost. He didn't look lost. He just looked like one of the worst turnovers was one where I saw what he was trying to do, but like Brett wasn't as open as he thought he was. It's almost like he looks at the play, Sam, and says, I can make this work. If I was the one receiving the pass, I would make this work. But like the guy receiving the pass isn't you. You know what I mean? And he doesn't know what you're thinking. So I think he just has to, like, somebody has to sit him down again and be like, okay, maybe don't try to put the team on your back. Maybe understand that you're playing with Jesper Brett, a really good player. You're playing with Andre Palat, who's having a really good stretch right now. Like, gotta hand it to Palat. And Palat's doing a lot of good things for the Devils. Last I checked, I don't know if this is updated, but the last I checked, he was leading the team in turnovers or takeaways. So he's really making those plays at 5-on-5. And then you got a line right behind him in Nico Hischier-Timo-Meier, and, you know, whether it's Tatar or Nason or Mercer, that's also playing well, you know, and getting really good chances. Like, Timo Meier is so close to just blowing up as far as goals are concerned, and I think he's going to easily hit 30 again just because he's like, there's going to be a point where he scores 7 in 2 weeks. And I think he's just getting those chances. They're just not going in for him. And the same thing with Tatar. I think Tatar is like, man, dude's. It's hard to say because they gave him the opportunity yesterday and he really squandered it. Had a couple really primo chances and got to the right spaces and kind of blew it. But. You know, it's. I think the Devils are in a really good spot, and I need to just remind everybody, like, the Devils are in a good spot. Their offense is slumped, but it's January, and it came at the same time where Jacob Markstrom is playing his best hockey, so you're still getting points and sometimes even wins. Their offense is going to turn it around. Like, I'm not too worried about it. I do think they're going to eventually make a deal of some kind just to bring in like a middle six forward, maybe even a center. I'm not worried about this team, and yeah, I want to give you, Sam, a chance to talk because I've gotten to a couple different subjects, but just want your thoughts, Sam.
Where do you want me to begin?
Why don't we talk about do you have any other thoughts on Jack Hughes, or did you kind of wrap that in a bow?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we're kind of like down and out on Jack Hughes. No, I want to see Jack Hughes shore up some of his game that's a little bit lacking. Jack Hughes has a huge upside. Love having Jack Hughes on the team. You know, he still needs to, basically he still needs to kind of mature a little bit and make his game more well-rounded. And again, I think Jack Hughes is much better, and including his brother too, when they are selfish with the puck, meaning shoot first and driving to the net. And I want to see more of that. I definitely want to see more of that. In regards to Timo Meyer, I think everything about Timo Meyer's game has been pretty good. Matter of fact, I'll tell you, I said this on Devils After Dark, and I posted on X today. The Swiss
Twitter.
beef. The Swiss beef. I mean, I was over the moon that when Nico got hit, there was immediate response from Siegenthaler, his fellow countryman, and everybody else, and Nico himself. And then
that was an illegal hit, by the way.
Okay,
that was an illegal hit, but
yeah.
just for those, I've seen some Devils fans be like, that's an illegal hit. It's clearly against the rules, but go on.
Well, I believe his skates left the ice
before he made contact, which is just insane.
Yeah,
like he should be suspended, but he won't be.
No, because no harm, no foul. I think Nico's okay from it. But Nico has become a smarter player, like the other young players that grew up in the Devil system, that learning how to avoid getting the brunt of those type of hits, right? A little bit of his luck, but but then Timo Meyer getting in the mix, hitting Tkachuk, saying, okay, you're asking for, well, we can play this game. Because last year and the year before and whatnot, they couldn't play that game. And it's just a beautiful thing, because I would have never thought that that they would get that feisty. And even Jack Hughes lately sometimes gets a little feisty. I love the feistiness, and it's great that they came together to defend the captain. I mean, Tkachuk's going to do what Tkachuk's going to do. I don't have a problem with it, but at the same time, if you're going to do that, there's a price to pay, and it's also strategic on Tkachuk's part, because you want to draw attention from what the Devils' goals are, is to win the game, and then suddenly you're kind of off balance a little bit, because that's one way on the road to kind of mix it up and kind of hit the reset button in that third period when the Devils were clearly gaining momentum after that Hischier goal. And I said this last night as well, that Hischier, walked in and scored before Tkachuk, kind of Tkachuk sending a message, you're not going to have it that easy.
Yeah. And here's the problem, Sam, is that, the part we're not talking about is that the Devils came out of that with a power play and it failed, like, pretty miserably. And the Devils' power play hasn't been good lately. I don't know what is happening. I don't know what changed. I do know that teams are playing tight in the box. So basically, all that they don't. So the way the Devils play the penalty kill is more of a power kill, where they try to cause turnovers on the edges, and basically they think that's going to avoid them ever getting the puck underneath. It happens once in a blue moon, and they hope that Jacob Markstrom can make the save. The way that other teams are doing it is they break up. There's say this box is the offensive zone, and this bottom line is the goal. Like, they try to just cut this out, and that's it. Like, they know that the main goal of the Devils' power play is try to get a chance in there and get 7-8 to clean it up, and it's causing a lot of blocked shots. It's causing a lot of unmitigated chances where they just don't happen. I want to kind of take a look. I do have a lot of articles in the quay, so I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but I'm curious of how many shots Stefan Nason had when he first got on the power play and how many he's had over the past 3 weeks. And I know he's been out sick. Apparently him and his family have have one of the kid diseases that is going through, and I can tell you they're terrible. But I'm curious what happened to this power play, and how do you fix it? Right? Do you make a personnel change?
I actually had a conversation with Chico this morning about it, and I asked Chico. I told Chico how I felt. I said, I think the difference when the Devils power play was going and when the Devils power play is not going, because it looks similar, it's just what they're doing up front in front of the net. It's not just about Nason just standing there or skating there. Oftentimes, the Devils get themselves in trouble sometimes because they're very skilled. And I wouldn't say that they're overpassing, but I think that they're playing too much of the perimeter game up top of the point sometimes. And I know you're trying to set up a play, but at the same time, you got to get into that slot area. When they're scoring on the power play, they have three guys in the slot. Somebody, is going to grab that puck and put it home. Versus when they're playing that perimeter game and you've got actually, let's just say three forwards, one D guy playing around the perimeter, and then you just got one forward in front of the goaltender.
Yeah, you got like Nason, yeah.
Yeah, you got to find a way to get inside and drive, and either drive the puck in or whatnot, because you don't see that too often with the Devils, driving to the net and going hard. Maybe you're going to have to crash into the goaltender. You don't see that too much lately. You got
the rush chances have been few and far between. Sorry.
Yeah. Now, are opposing teams playing the Devils differently, where they just can't get inside? I don't know. I mean, I think the Devils are better served if they're a north-south team than east-west.
I agree with what you're saying. Do you know what I think they need to focus on? How you pull them out is the one big issue is that Dougie Hamilton's slap shot isn't back yet. The power is there, the accuracy is not, and I think it's because of the injury from last year. I don't think they need to take him off of power play one, but maybe kind of really in practice, you got to put him at game situations with that and be like, what's happening? What are you thinking during these? Where are you putting your power? Where are you hitting the puck? Where are you standing when the puck is there? Are you favoring a side that you didn't last year? It's going to take a lot of practice. But if you can get Dougie Hamilton to where he can hit a slapper from the point and it goes in or causes a rebound and doesn't get blocked by the first person that's sitting there, and you get better accuracy in the slap shot, that'll draw people out and give you an option for a rush chance. The other one is, I think you might put Timo Meier back on power play one, because I think one way to kind of break this is to have Jack, when he's pretending to rush and the guy goes at him, you pass to Timo for that one timer where he's like standing right next to the circle or maybe in the circle, because I think you can hit that. I think you can hit that with consistency. And if it doesn't go in, you have a much better chance for a rebound than you would, say, Jack Hughes wrister from 20 feet out. So I think that those two things will really help. The Hamilton thing, like if you can't figure it out, Luke Hughes wasn't really good at that last year, so I don't think you really have an option. But I think you just got to figure it out with Hamilton. And, I think, there's also the option of having two distinct lines, or maybe you take, I'm like trying to go over the lines in my head, but it's hard with this Devils team. But I'm thinking maybe like Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Dougie Hamilton, and then maybe like Dawson Mercer and Andre Palat. Oh, I don't like that at all. But then the other one you would have Timo Meyer, Jesper Bratt, Luke Hughes. This team really doesn't need one more scorer, and like things would be in really good shape. Like if they re-signed Tyler Toffoli, like that would have really rounded out this team so well. And Tatar just didn't work out. It is what it is. Am I giving up on him? It depends on like what you consider giving up. Like he's a fourth line forward this year. That's just what he is. But Toffoli would have been like the guy, and like same thing with like I hate the guys who get stuck on like the old guys, but like Sharon Govich would have been a really good. I know he's not having the season he had last year, but he would be really good on this team.
Let me ask you this. I'll harp on it again. You know who's on pace for 26 goals and about 50 assists this year?
Who?
Logan Cooley.
Oh, yeah, I mean that's the thing. If you had Cooley or Wright, you're in good shape with both of them.
But why Nemitz?
Oh, but Nemitz is fine. I wrote about that. Nemitz is fine. I did some research on what he's been doing over the past like 6 weeks. You still got a guy there. I don't care what I know Corey Proman is a friend of the podcast, and I hate to disparage a friend of the podcast, but his list was kind of bunk this week. He ranked top players 23 years old and under, and he ranked Simone Nemitz 83rd. He ranked him behind Jurasek, who's got traded because he wasn't good enough. Like it didn't make a lot of sense. But I wrote about what he's been doing. He scored again tonight. He scored the go-ahead goal. I haven't been able to check because I'm on this podcast, but he scored the go-ahead goal for Utica on a 3-3 tie. Big game tonight. I think they're playing Rochester. I'm truly not worried about Nemitz. It was either the shoulder injury or, as much as I give credit to Sheldon Keefe, I don't think he did a good job with the Nemitz-Casey pairing. I don't think that made a lot of sense. And there's a lot of proof to that pudding where I think both guys really got hurt by that pairing. And I think one of them would be in the NHL right now if they weren't on the pair together. And he also was recovering from the shoulder injury. So I think those two things combined just kind of really got in his head. And then the first 6 weeks in the AHL, I try to explain this to people a lot. And I feel like I fall on deaf ears. But NHL players, even guys like Nemitz, who's on an entry-level contract, they make a fifth of their salary in the AHL or the AHL. A fifth. So if you get demoted to the AHL, you go from getting, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the calculation. Let's say you get $10,000 per week in the AHL. You make like $40,000 per week in the NHL. I think my numbers are off, but it would be 50 actually, or 50. Again, I think my numbers are off. I think it's something in that range. You literally make 20% of your salary in AHL, and like that's, I don't want to call it humbling, but like how many people listening to this podcast right now would take 20% of their salary and just be cool with it? I know athletes need to it's just a different world for athletes, but I think Nemitz makes something like $200,000 in the AHL. He makes $900,000 in the NHL. That's frustrating. I get frustrated when I don't get the bonus I want or I don't get the raise I want, and I'm sure everybody else out there is talking about the same thing. So I think that there's the ego part of it. These athletes have egos, and usually it's a really good thing to have an ego. But if your ego gets shot at the bow, it's going to take a little while. So I think Nemitz is finally out of all that. I think the first injury that happens, Nemitz needs to be the call-up, especially now that Casey's injured. I think Casey's coming back in like 2 weeks, but with Casey injured, Nemitz playing as well as he's been playing, I think that Nemitz is the first call up if anybody goes down. Like even before you put in, you lost DeSimone to did he go to Utah? I think
I don't
he went
remember.
to Utah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think he got claimed by Utah, so you lost DeSimone. Even before, I mean, I know Colin White has been a guy there. The only guy I would put in before Nemitz, and I've been a big proponent of his, is Hataka. But I know he's still injured right now. I don't know how close he is to coming back. I think he's still a couple weeks away. So I think Nemitz is the guy. I think he's gonna get into the lineup at some point this season. I think he's gonna play well. At least he's not gonna be as bad as he was to start the season. There's just so much that went wrong.
In fairness to him, his development kind of got a little sidetracked last season because of all the injuries. I mean, he was basically brought up an emergency basis.
And he played fine.
Yeah. I'm only saying that because of my ego, because I wanted Logan Cooley from the start. But
listen, I would have loved. Yeah.
At the same time, at the time when you have the second overall, to me, I don't think Nemitz was the second best available at that moment.
So, can I ask you one thing?
What's that?
Are you at all worried about making, with Bratt, with Hughes, with, are you worried about making yourself too small?
No, not in today's NHL. No.
That's my concern because I decided to fight all of Montreal Canadiens Twitter when I said that Luke Hughes. I said I wouldn't trade Luke Hughes for Lane Hudson and Cole Caulfield. And my argument was that Cole Caulfield is just the size issue that he has is fine on Montreal, but when you pair him with guys like Jack Hughes, then you have a small line. It's one thing to have a small guy. It's another thing to have a small line. And that was kind of my argument there. But again, I think Luke Hughes is going to turn into a top 5 defenseman, and they don't grow on trees. So it's and I don't think that's Lane Hudson. I think Lane Hudson will be I said he's a rich man's Tony DeAngelo, which is good, but I think Luke Hughes could be maybe a step down from a car. He could be exactly what Quinn Hughes is right now. Maybe a little bit better defensively.
I'll tell you. Wait till Luke Hughes in the 6th and 7th season when he is almost into his prime, where his skating, his upper body strength can go one-on-one with the elite and keep up. I think that's the Luke Hughes that I can't wait to see, because he's getting there. But right now, it's a pleasure to see him zero out a forward without having to lay physical contact. It's just.
I mean, he's the fastest guy at his position, probably top 2, I'd say.
Which is why Jack Hughes was so happy that his brother got selected by Fitzy.
It was a smart, listen, I know there's some people who said some things about that pick, that it was a marketing tool or whatever. No, Luke Hughes was legitimately a top 5 prospect in that draft, and now he's number 1. And that's going to be a story that I'm writing later this week, Sam, is I want to write 5 players. I want to dictate 5 players that were the best in their draft that the Devils drafted. Doesn't have to be a guy that, played his whole career with the Devils. So, the Brendan Shanahans of the world are up for grabs. But I want to see, who did the Devils draft that became the best guy in their draft? By the way, Nemitz has 2 goals tonight.
Oh, that's fine. Again, I didn't trash the guy where, he's never going to be an NHL player. What I'm saying is, if you're going to try to, at the time period, if you're going to try to be an elite team, you need 3 center guys down the middle.
So do you think the Devils made a mistake picking Silyev over Hellenius this year?
No. No.
I'm interested in Silyev because I think he's a unicorn. Truly, I think he's. But unicorns don't always work out. But I think when you have a chance to take a unicorn, you take a unicorn. A guy who's 6'7" who can skate like that it's impossible. And he's
It's just not.
he's on a weird team though.
Well, now you just got to teach them hockey. You know. Because there are certain attributes to some of these players that you just can't teach. You can teach them the game, but some of the physical strength that they have or whatnot. But I just again I just didn't think that Nemitz was the second best available at that spot, and you really got lucky to have that spot. And you pick Nemitz, but Logan Cooley was my guy right there. And I'm going to be watching him and his career because right now, I talked to Paul Marino about it. He's loving Logan Cooley. When he watches all.
Oh, he's still paying attention to the. Because he's watching first. Oh, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if John's back yet, but he's reading.
I think he came back yesterday.
Okay.
I think he came back yesterday for the first time. So yeah. John Marino should be back.
Yeah. And he repaired. I forgot what it was, but he's had
a back injury, right?
Yeah, he's had that injury since Harvard, and it was never a problem, but I think as time went along, it started to become a problem.
Well, he had the other issue, right? Didn't he have a ligament issue in his arm or his wrist or his hand or something?
Yeah, I'm going to. I'll try to find out.
Yeah, there was something upper body he was dealing with last year too. But yeah, here's the thing. I get what you're saying with Nemitz, but I think he's going to be a contributor. I think the Devils are built to win for a long time, which is why they made the Silyev pick, which is why they made the Nemitz pick. You didn't pick Nemitz to be. I'm trying to think the right. I don't think he's Ryan Murray. I don't think he's. I don't even think he's Adam Larson, where you took him. He had this high upside, and he just never lived up to it. I think he's a guy who's going to be a really good. He's a guy who you're like on 15 teams you'd be on the top line, but on this one you're on the second line. I think that's what he is, and I'm perfectly fine with that because guess what, Sam? That also makes him cheaper. He'll accept a $5 or $6 million contract
and
instead of the $9 that Luke Hughes is going to.
And who knows? Maybe the Devils analytic team, because a lot of this stuff, the analytics is predictions. How they project him to be. But at the end of the day, and I'll even admit this, as good as Logan Cooley is, and I want him bad, Nemitz has the best value for the New Jersey Devils because, again, finding a right-handed D guy that's mobile, can score, and if he could definitely play defense, has a lot of value on the trade market. Definitely does. So, and I think that's what he was trying to do. Increase the amount of assets in the farm system when he picked Nemitz as well. So, again, it's just two sides to the equation.
Yeah. No, I get it. Let me, before we go, we're at the end. I do want to talk about two goalie prospects real quick because the Devils got a double dose of good news today. For one, Nico Dawes is back. I am going to end my Nico Dawes brigade of saying that I think he's the future just because two reasons, but we'll get to the second reason in a sec. For one, I don't think he can stay healthy. And he just proved it this year that he just can't stay on the ice I do think the Devils are going to get another backup next year, and I think Dawes will be a third. I think they'll put him through waivers and be fine with whatever happens, or he'll be part of a trade or whatever. I think Dawes. I think the Dawes dream is dead, which is fine. It is what it is, and this is why it's fine, Sam. They got their guy, and I'm calling it now. You want to say it's early, that's fine. Yegorov is the deal. He's the guy. He's going to be an NHL goalie. I think he's going to be a really good NHL goalie. And stage 2 of his development happened, I think it was today or over the weekend. He left the Omaha Lancers, his USHL team, and he enrolled early to Boston University. He's going to get a chance to play on a team that has legitimate national championship aspirations. I think they're ranked 11th in the country right now. And their goalie is losing them games right now. Their goalie was really good. He was a transfer from Brown University. His name's escaping me right now, but he was transferred from Brown University. He had like a 912, 915, somewhere in that range save percentage last year. This year's at like 895. So you're talking about a 20% drop in save percentage. Yegorov's going to go there and have a chance to dominate. Like, this is a guy, Yegorov faced 66 shots at the sometime at the end of December, in the game at the end of December, and lost. He made 63 saves and lost. Can you imagine that, Sam? Like this guy, he's a 912 save percentage, and I think like 3 wins. So he's getting off a dumpster fire, and he's going to a premium program in Boston. I think he's going to stay there for 3 years, I think, including this year. So this year, and then 2 more years after that.
What school is he going to?
He's going to come to Boston University, the Terriers.
Oh, okay. So he's with Jay Pandolfo.
Is he Boston or Boston College? He's Boston.
He's BU. Boston College is Gianta's team.
Okay. Yeah. So he's going to Pandolfo.
Okay.
Great program. Like they're doing incredibly well. And with Yegorov, they might do even better. Boston was where? Is that where Celebrini went?
BU.
I think, right?
I believe
so. Or did he go to Boston College?
No, I think he went to BU.
Like, this is just a much like, and the USHL is bad. But Omaha is one of the worst teams that you could think of in the USHL. And now he's going on a team. I'm trying to look up the roster, trying to see if there's, they have Jack Hughes on Boston University.
Oh yeah,
it's the other Jack Hughes, but Tom Willander was a draft pick. There's guys on this team. I'm just Aiden Celebrini. I wonder. I assume that's Macklin's brother. Max LaCroix is he's the goalie. Max LaCroix, who was really good last year, not so good this year. Cole Eiserman, the really good scorer that was drafted by the New York Islanders. Yeah, and then Jay Pandolfo is the coach. So you got players on this team. This team's really good. I just think that's huge for him. That's huge for Yegorov. I think Yegorov is the goalie. You gotta, you're gonna get 1 more year out of Markstrom. Maybe you give him another year after that. Maybe 2 more years after that. How old is Markstrom? Is he 30?
36.
4? He's 36. Okay. Yeah, I'd be a little bit worried about giving him a year after this contract, but
he could be the next Tim Thomas. You never know.
He could be. He had a similar career as Tim Thomas, but I worry about I had a guy in my head who just Varlamov. Varlamov just fell off a cliff, and I'd be worried about something like that. But it's you also have Jacob Malik, who might be a decent goalie. He's signed to the Devils, so we'll see what he can bring to the table.
How about Tristan Jarry being on waivers? How about that story?
If they terminate that contract, I don't mind bringing him in as like a third.
Yeah.
And just giving him a game, I've said this till the cows come home. You should have a third goalie, and that goalie should be the backup for both of your back-to-back games. So you make Markstrom inactive for one, and then start Jake Allen and have Jari, let's say in this situation, back up. And then you start Markstrom in the next game, you make Allen inactive, and then you have Jari as the backup. So you never have to worry about, say, Allen gets shelled, gives up 5 goals on the front half, and then you have to play Markstrom, with already half a game in the bucket in a game that was over. You know what I mean? Like it was out of sight, out of mind. So I think that's always been my philosophy. But NHL teams would rather have a second backup defenseman than they would a emergency goalie.
Yeah.
But hey, they could get the ice cream man to play goalie or something like that. The e-bug.
Oh, Shorts guy needs to be an e-bug. Would have been great. Would have been great.
But anyway, that's what would be funny if they just make Brodeur make the pads and be like, you ended your career with the Devils now.
That would be something. But I think it would be a game where the e-bug couldn't get to the arena because there was a lot of snow, and Brodeur was in the building.
I wonder if he has his gear there.
I'm sure he doesn't.
Yeah.
But it would be cool.
I mean, he just has to fit into somebody else's gear. It'll be fine. Just balance pads.
I'll tell you what. I mean, Marty's gained some weight. I've noticed that lately. But
I can't talk.
Yeah, I mean, I look. I love being fat, so But I mean, if you put Marty Brodeur, say in that situation, or even a playoff situation, I mean, can you imagine? If something were to happen.
I don't know if I want him in a playoff situation, but
yeah. Well, I wouldn't want any goal e-bug in a playoff situation,
right.
But it happens.
No, I'm good with
it. Happens.
Has that ever happened?
No, I'm just saying.
E-bug in the playoffs?
I don't think so.
I don't think it has it.
Maybe
because you get those extra roster spots too.
Yeah, but it would be kind of cool to see Brodeur back in action.
Just sitting on the sidelines in the pads.
I mean, the crowd would go nuts if it was at the Rock. It would be a standing ovation. People would be standing.
It'd be amazing.
All the Marty's better chants, and that would be funny.
And imagine, listen, the marketing dollars that would go behind that. That would be the talk of the NHL for a week.
Yeah. And what happens if he does well? And what happens if he does well? That's the other thing. Again,
open the coffers, Tommy Fitz.
Yeah, full disclaimer here. We're talking about hypotheticals, okay? We're not saying that Brodeur's coming back.
What's he? He's what, 53, 54, something like that?
I think 52.
52. Okay. Yeah, but that's all I got, Sam.
Plug. Please plug.
Plugs.
Yep.
Man, I plugged most of the articles I've been writing, but I really dug into both overtime. So I wrote 2 different articles. One about overtime. I just hit my mic. Sorry about that. One about overtime, and then one about the shootout. Very dove deep into what's going on in both these situations and why the Devils suck. Read those. I wrote about Mikhail Yigarev going to Boston today. I wrote about Simon Nemec yesterday. How everybody's overreacting. I wrote about prospects that I really want to see in the second half. Marcy Rubin wrote about Jack Hughes in the shootout very specifically. Jennifer Streeter wrote about the jersey and how people have turned around and people like it now, which is really interesting. Jersey Joe wrote about 2 very interesting deadline acquisitions that actually make sense. I got to push Mr. Parisi. Mr. Parisi says, Vinny Vinny P says he's going to get us a story on the Devils' top 25 team, or the 25-year team, or whatever it is. So, if he's on the pregame show tomorrow, Sam, make sure he knows he's got to write his piece before it comes out. I think it comes out next week. I think we got time.
Yeah.
For the 22nd, I think it's 22nd. The Devils come out.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's all I got.
Well, tomorrow for Game Day Live, because we're gonna have a triple header, or possibly quadruple header. Happy Devils Thursday tomorrow, but watch out for Game Day Live, because Short Sky, Vinny, and I have a big response to the Optimum customers and the Comcast customers that can't get the Devils games. We got something special going on, but you're going to have to tune in to Game Day Live tomorrow. Can't tell you what it is because we don't know if it's going to work, but we're just going to. There's the cliffhanger right there.
Sorry, I just saw Nick Kiprios just put the Devils. So watch out for New Jersey and the Elias Pettersson, JT Miller trade saga. So of course I'm very distracted by that, but I wouldn't think too hard about it. But just an interesting thing to end the podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank all those tuning in. Just make sure to go to joinourcrew.com, sign up for the latest updates of the Let's Go Devils podcast. Also, remember to go to pucksandpitchforks.com. And we're going to end on this note. We're going into overtime right now. No, we're not.
I jumped the gun.
Yeah. All righty. Well, we'll see you later, everybody. Till next time, let's go Devils.